Episode 86. Well, said Harry, recovering quickly from this unpleasant surprise, a few more accidents like that and the game's in the bag, isn't it? Hermione and Ginny sat down opposite them, wearing red and gold scarves, gloves, and rosettes. How are you feeling? Ginny asked Ron, who was now staring into the dregs of milk at the bottom of his empty cereal bowl, as though seriously considering attempting to drown himself in them. He's just nervous, said Harry.
Well, that's a good sign. I never feel you perform as well in exams if you're not a bit nervous,
said Hermione heartily.
Hello,
said a vague and dreamy voice from behind them. Harry looked up. Luna Lovegood had drifted over from the Ravenclaw table. Many people were staring at her, and a few openly laughing and pointing. She had managed to procure a hat shaped like a life-size lion's head, which was perched precariously on her head.
I'm supporting Gryffindor, said Luna, pointing unnecessarily at her hat. Look what it does.
She reached up and tapped the hat with her wand. It opened its mouth wide and gave an extremely realistic roar that made everyone in the vicinity jump.
It's good, isn't it? Said Luna happily. I wanted to have it chewing up a serpent to represent Slytherin, you know, but there wasn't time. Anyway, good luck, Ronald.
She drifted away. They had not quite recovered from the shock of Luna's hat before Angelina came hurrying toward them, accompanied by Katy and Alicia, whose eyebrows had mercifully been returned to normal by Madame Pomfrey. "When you're ready," she said, "we're going to go straight down to the pitch, check out conditions, and change." "We'll be there in a bit," Harry assured her. "Ron's just got to have some breakfast." It became clear after 10 minutes, however, that Ron was not capable of eating anything, and Harry thought it best to get him down to the changing rooms. As they rose from the table, Hermione got up too, and taking Harry's arm, she drew him to one side.
"Don't let Ron see what's on those Slytherin's badges," she whispered urgently.
Harry looked questioningly at her, but she shook her head warningly. Ron had just ambled over to them, looking lost and desperate.
"Good luck, Ron," said Hermione, standing on tiptoe and kissing him on the cheek. "And you, Harry?"
Ron seemed to have come to himself slightly as they walked back across the great hall. He touched the spot on his face where Hermione had kissed him, looking puzzled, as though he was not quite sure what had just happened. He seemed too distracted to notice much around him, but Harry cast a curious glance at the crown-shaped badges as they passed the Slytherin table, and this time he made out the words etched onto them. "Weasley is our king." With an unpleasant feeling that this could mean nothing good, he hurried Ron across the entrance hall, down the stone steps, and out into the icy air. The frosty grass crunched under their feet as they hurried down the sloping lawns toward the stadium. There was no wind at all, and the sky was a uniform pearly white, which meant that visibility would be good, without the drawback of direct sunlight in the eyes. Harry pointed out these encouraging factors to Ron as they walked, but he was not sure that Ron was listening. Angelina had changed already and was talking to the rest of the team when they entered. Harry and Ron pulled on their robes. Ron attempted to do his up back to front for several minutes before Alicia took pity on him and went to help, and then sat down to listen to the pre-match talk while the babble of voices outside grew steadily louder as the crowd came pouring out of the castle toward the pitch. "Okay, I've only just found out the final lineup for Slytherin," said Angelina, consulting a piece of parchment. "Last year's beaters, Derek and Bowl, have left now, but it looks as though Montague's replaced them with the usual gorillas, rather than anyone who can fly particularly well. They're two blokes called Crabbe and Goyle. I don't know much about them." We do, said Harry and Ron together. "Well, they don't look bright enough to tell one end of a broom from another," said Angelina, pocketing her parchment. But then I was always surprised Derek and Bo managed to find their way onto the pitch without signposts. Crabbe and Goyle are in the same mold, Harry assured her. They could hear hundreds of footsteps mounting the banked benches of the spectators' stands now. Some people were singing, though Harry could not make out the words. He was starting to feel nervous, but he knew his butterflies were nothing compared to Ron's, who was clutching his stomach and staring straight ahead again, his jaw set and his complexion pale gray. "It's time," said Angelina in a hushed voice, looking at her watch. "Come on, everyone. Good luck." The team rose, shouldered their brooms, and marched in single file out of the changing room and into the dazzling sunlight. A roar of sound greeted them, in which Harry could still hear singing, though it was muffled by the cheers and whistles. The Slytherin team were standing, waiting for them. They, too, were wearing those silver crown-shaped badges. The new captain, Montague, was built along the same lines as Dudley, with massive forearms like hairy hams. Behind him lurked Crabbe and Goyle, almost as large, blinking stupidly in the sunlight, swinging their new beaters' bats. Malfoy stood to one side, the sunlight gleaming on his white blonde head. He caught Harry's eye and smirked, tapping the crown-shaped badge on his chest. "Captains, shake hands," ordered the umpire, Madam Hooch, as Angelina and Montague reached each other. Harry could tell that Montague was trying to crush Angelina's fingers, though she did not wince. "Mount your brooms!" Madam Hooch placed her whistle in her mouth and blew. The balls were released, and the 14 players shot upward. Out of the corner of his eye, Harry saw Ron streak off toward the goal hoops. He zoomed higher, dodging a bludger, and set off on a wide lap of the pitch, gazing around for a glint of gold. On the other side of the stadium, Draco Malfoy was doing exactly the same. "And it's Johnson! Johnson with the quaffle! What a player that girl is! I've been saying it for years, but she still won't go out with me." "Jordan!" yelled Professor McGonagall. "Just a fun fact, Professor. Adds a bit of interest. And she's ducked Warrington. She's passed Montague. She's, ouch, been hit from behind by a bludger from Crabbe. Montague catches the quaffle. Montague heading back up the pitch, and nice bludger there from George Weasley. That's a bludger to the head for Montague. He drops the quaffle, caught by Katie Bell. Katie Bell of Gryffindor reverse passes to Alicia Spinnet, and Spinnet's away. Lee Jordan's commentary rang through the stadium, and Harry listened as hard as he could, through the wind whistling in his ears and the din of the crowd, all yelling and booing and singing. "Dodges Warrington, avoids a bludger, close call, Alicia, and the crowd are loving this. Just listen to them. What's that they're singing?" And as Lee paused to listen, the song rose loud and clear from the sea of green and silver in the Slytherin section of the stands. "Weasley cannot save a thing, he cannot block a single ring. That's why Slytherins all sing, Weasley is the king. Weasley was born in a bin, he always lets the quaffle in. Weasley will make sure we win, Weasley is our king." "And Alicia passes back to Angelina," Lee shouted. And as Harry swerved, his insides boiling at what he had just heard, he knew Lee was trying to drown out the sound of the singing. "Come on now, Angelina. Looks like she's got the keeper to beat. She shoots. Ah!" Bletchley, the Slytherin keeper, had saved the goal. He threw the quaffle to Warrington, who sped off with it, zigzagging in between Alicia and Katie. The singing from below grew louder and louder as he drew nearer to Ron. "Weasley is our king. Weasley is our king. He always lets the quaffle in. Weasley is our king."